Thanks, Mark. Didn't listen to a word I said, did you? I told him not to build me up too much. That way it's not too much of a disappointment when you have to listen to me. So like he said, I have worked right now for the Victoria Airport, but in the past I've worked for different consulting companies. We used FME for a long time. And if you start to use FME for a while, in the company you start to turn into this guy that solves problems. Somebody comes to you with a data problem and you're going, and they think it's impossible to solve. And they say, how long is it going to take? I said, well, do you want to watch? And you bring up FME and you do it in a couple steps and it's done. So over the years, that's gone on, and people keep coming to me with harder and harder problems. So one day, I was working for someone in one of the departments at WSP, and he comes up to me and asks, we've got a couple of thousand PDFs. And right now, we get new ones every day. It's the same style of PDF, it's the same format, and there's text in it. And what we're doing is we're manually copying the data out of it into a spreadsheet so that we can use it. Can you automate that? Can you make that so it's going to work? So I, of course, thought, well, I know I can write PDFs, but I never really explored if I can read PDFs in FME. So I looked, of course, and you can't. And I did some searching online. You can't do it. So I told him, no, I can't help you. I have other stuff to do. So he kept asking. He kept coming back to me day after day asking, can you do this? And I said, okay, finally, okay, I'll give it a try. And to understand why this is a difficult problem is you have to understand what exactly is in a PDF. Let's just take a look at what we're dealing with and why I initially said no. First off, in a PDF, you do have text, like actual text object. You can copy it and paste it into Word. But you also have graphics, like vectors and logos and things like that are actual vector graphics. And you also have images. So all this stuff is mashed together, and you think, well, FME can do anything. I've done almost amazing things with it in the past. Surely there's a way I can do this. There wasn't. I couldn't fool FME into reading PDFs at all. I couldn't change the extension. I couldn't convert it into something else automatically and get the information out of it. And it's because PDFs were never meant to be a data repository. Someone said to me, PDFs are the place where data goes to die. And I thought that was true, because all of this stuff inside the PDF, there's really no consistent way of getting it out. It's like, it was designed to send stuff to printers. And printers are just going to print it out. They don't really care what information they're printing. So how can we get text out of PDFs? Well, in reality, there's a lot of tools out there that can do this. You can use Adobe itself. Purchase the license, and you can export text from PDFs. You can use a whole bunch of free things to do this. But you can't use FME. So what I was looking for a hero. I was looking for something, okay, what could I use to get text out of PDFs? And I fell on this guy. This is actually open license software, but it's command line. It's called XPDF. You can go download it yourself, and there's this cool little tool inside of it. It's just a little exe file. You don't have to install anything on your system. It's just an exe, and it converts PDF to text. It pulls the text out, whatever text objects it finds, and it has all these options. So that was part of my problem, is not only did I want to get the text out, I wanted to get it into a database. So I had to do it in a consistent manner that I could use it. So you'll see here, it gives you if you ever looked at command line tools, it gives you all the different options you can use. And this one actually is quite complicated. Is when you pick some of these options, some of the other options become available. So I thought, great, I have my answer. But I don't want to spend for a couple thousand and then every day to be able to have to use this tool manually to get the information out. Could I use FME with this thing? Well, first off, this guy was my hero. He could get the job done, just like Emmett out of the Lego movie. But if you ever watched the movie, he didn't get there very fast. It took a while for him to get to the, to be the hero in the end. And that's kind of like this XPDF thing. It was going to get me there, but it was going to be really painful to work with. Then I discovered the way that you can create custom transformers in FME. Custom transformers are a way of wrapping up this command line tool and making it look like it's part of FME. And I can't take any credit for developing this idea. Dimitri from SAFE, he's the guy who really put it all together. And that little link there brings you to a step-by-step instructions how to create any command line tool and stick it into its own custom transformer. Dimitri did a great job. I pulled a whole bunch of his stuff and used it in this little custom transformer that I built. And that makes our hero a lot better. Because now, I think that's probably Dimitri behind the mask there. It's much, much better hero. Yeah, I mean, if Batman was the hero of the Lego movie, well, the movie would have been a lot shorter. Been over right away. So that's the guy I was looking for, and that's what I had. So the way it works is I have my PDF documents, and I can feed them into my FME custom transformer. What it actually does is it takes the PDF file, converts it to just a text file, and stores that. So you see at the bottom the temporary text line data file. So every one, it gets created this temporary text line file. Then I can pump that into the rest of the FME process and read those text files. So the fact that it's a PDF, FME never knows. It just deals with the fact that it's text files. This is actually what is inside the custom transformer. The part along the top and all the way up to that first green box is really just letting you pick your files. There's not really much more intelligence there than that. The box there, the little box, is just the logic on which switches to turn on. So I'll show you how you do that in the FME tool, but this is just representing the logic behind, if you use this switch, then you're going to have to put this stuff in the command line. The real stuff comes with the system caller. It goes out, takes my command line, and reads those PDFs with all the options that you've chosen. And then I use a feature reader. So this feature reader, all it does is read the text files. So I have it set up so it goes out and when it's put those text files in a temporary location, this goes and reads that stuff. The rest of it here is just around error checking and taking a look at some of the stuff in there. So the cool thing was this feature reader. So you haven't used these guys before. It's a way of putting the ability to read a format right inside of your workflow. Because I was reading PDFs, I was basically starting with something FME didn't know, but I wanted to start the process. So when I got to the feature reader, this is the information that I used in the feature reader parameters. And in particular, if you take a look at this guy here on the right, there's a couple of options on how to read the text files. And this has a big impact on how it read my text information and got the information I needed. Showing you guys this stuff is if you decide to go down this road, there's lots of options, but you don't have to present them all to the user. You'll see actually what the user has to deal with is that. That's all that they see of all that technology in the background and all your logic. And this, when they click on the little gear in the corner, is what they're presented with. They're no longer presented with a whole list of command lines they need to pick. They pick, where is the PDF? Do I want to read each PDF as one feature, or do I want one great big huge text file where all my PDF text is put together? Do I want to use some of the options that the PDF reader gave me? There's table here, there's a whole bunch of other types that you can read, which pages. The key to this tool, though, is the fact that FME can't read PDFs. That first line, you need to put that exe file, that free one that I showed you the website for, you need to put that on somewhere on your computer, somewhere on the system, and you just need to point this thing towards it. what's in the background, making all those switches work, this is the parameters of this custom transformer. So there's not that many, but it gives you options on picking the text conversion type. These parameters aren't too difficult to set up. Take a look. You can set menu type picks. You can say just a raw text format, or you can say, it has to be a number. So for the page numbering, it had to be a number, things like that. So you can set that all up in the background. And what I've done with this one is I've actually put it on the hub. So FME Hub is fairly new. It's only in the past 6 months, I guess. I'm looking at Mark here. He's not.
It's been there before in different names.
Yeah. So now it's really actually well integrated. And if you just open up FME and start typing in PDF, this custom transformer shows up as one of those things that you can download and use. So don't even have to go to the FME Hub. It automatically links in. So let's just take a look at a demo here. And after the demo, I'll actually talk about the data that led me down this huge rabbit hole to figure out how to read PDFs in the first place. So how could you use this tool? I went online and was looking for some PDFs that might make sense to use this. So I found this one from the United Nations, and it was a cool one because it's a PDF file with a list of all the countries, official country names in the world, and it did it in a whole bunch of different languages. So with this one, Bangladesh, for instance, one of the first ones, there's the official name in English, French, Spanish, Russian. With this tool, I can read this 250-page document, pull out all the English or all the French or all the Spanish representations of each country name fairly quickly. So what it does is, see if we can get this to run. So what I've got here is I've got my PDF to text reader. It's set up to read, this is where the exe is, and then I have my country names PDF. That's what it's linking to. And then I've just used some of the options here to, this one works well in a table output. And then the rest of this, all it does is go through and pull out the text. Remember, it's pulling all the raw text out, and then it does a string searcher to find English. It does a replacer to get my stuff parsed out the way I want it. And to, a little bit different than normal, because we're starting with this transformer, which is not actually a reader, you have to set what file you get to in here. You have to actually use this to pick which file you're going to read. You can't just use a regular reader import. So when I play it, goes out, finds them all, and it's really hard to read. Well, it's not too bad on this screen. I get my list of English, my short name, my long name, all pulled out of that PDF, just with a couple of readers. Some of them don't work so well, but that's mostly in the PDF file that you have to play around with. So I found it quite useful to get that into my text line data. This would be the raw output. It tells you which text line number, what the text line length of each one it pulled out. You see it pulled out all of them. And then down here, you can see that English is all one line. And then I just divided it out and got it into one row. So it's all just parsing text after that. Once you get it in, you can mess around with your data. So what led me down this rabbit hole was unique, well, I guess it's unique to BC, is the way that you get land title data. So I was working with a bunch of surveyors, and they had land title documents that they would download. And they wanted to be able to link the information on who owned the property to the actual parcel fabric. I know in a lot of other jurisdictions, you go to one place and get all this information, but not in BC. They're working on it, but it's not there yet. It's pretty close. So the idea was we pay to get each of these land titles, and I want to create an owner map for a particular area. How can I automate that? So to get the, let's take a look at the thing that we were dealing with. These were the PDFs that we would get. It would give information on when it was actually acquired, what section it is in, have information on who the owner was, And then if you go further down, it had things like this PID, legal description. Those were my identifiers that would link back to my stuff. So this was the bad guy. I had to deal with him. So how am I going to deal with this guy? We set up a process where I used my tool, and I used FME server to allow the ability to pull the text data out, load it in a database, link it to the geographic data, and then allow users to query it. And I also set it up so it would update daily. And then it was automated through email. So all that the user would have to do is send an email, and they'd get their answer back. So we took the bad guy, and we made him party. So that process required a couple of things here. We had to take our email attachments and send them to FME server. Remember, FME can't read PDFs, so it would put the PDFs in a temporary folder. At the end of the day, it would zip them up. FME can read zips. And it would email it to itself. This is a great way to get it in. It would then read the contents of the zip file, not the data, because they're PDFs, and then it would run the PDF to text command line on the contents of what was in the folder. So it set up all of the command line sets based on what was in the zip file, the file names. It would then read it, send it out, and parse it out. We'd put it into an SQL database so we could have that PDF information ready, and then the BC parcels would be available as well. And we'd also take our original PDFs and put them in a repository. So now we had the title PDFs all linked up to our parcels. So that guy turned into just a database entry. So now we have the actual data off. Nobody had to do any manual import into this. So we update it. In BC, you download data from a site called MyLTSA, your land title office, and you can set an alternative email to send it to. So I've asked all the users at WSP that do this to set this as an alternative email. So they don't even know when they order a title, it automatically gets sent to FME server. And each night, it processes all the PDFs, puts them in the database, and then users can get to it. So I also have someone who checks it each day because sometimes the owner information is a bit difficult to pull out of a multi-line PDF. And she only has to do about 5. It takes her about 3 minutes. She updates the data using an Excel process. She doesn't even have to use SQL server. So how will people get at it? So we thought about a couple ideas. This one, the Craggle, it was my first idea. We're just going to force it down people's throats. And that could be one way to do it, and I also could compare this to using the FME server interface. We could have given people access to that and said, you know, give them instructions on how to do it. That's not going to work. Even if it's locked down, it can be very difficult for a new user to use just the FME server user interface to run a workspace. So I even had a cool name, no S, of course, because it's Taco. But I decided, and also, you know, because I didn't want people in FME server, I don't like people messing with my stuff, so I didn't let them in. We gave them a web page instead. So here they have the ability to do it either through an email or a web form to request their information. They can say, I have this one parcel PID, how do I get it? Or I have an area. They create a clip area in Google Earth, send that to FME server, and it sends it back to them. This is the form that it looked like for the web form. Just to give you an idea, I won't go through this all, a full demo, but this would be like a clip area. They'd build that in Google Earth. They'd attach it to an email, send it to FME server. And what it would do then is the data request would come in. It would send it to an email controller workspace. So I have a couple of other processes set up. That way it would know where to go, what to do with this email, depending on the content. Or if it was a web form, it would skip that part, clip it out, extract the parcel data, zip it all up, send the email back to the person with the results. It worked quite well. Google Earth, Esri Shape, AutoCAD, and this is the information they get back. I give them links because a lot of the data they request is too big for email. So it would be a FME server data link that they could click on and work with. So with their request, they'd get back the parcels, and whenever they'd click on a parcel in Google Earth, it would give all of the parcel information plus all of my title data, and I also have a link back to that original PDF document. So the title PDF, they could get that delivered to them as well, and then they could link on any parcel and see the actual title document. Very effective. We also do legal plans, so it would do a search to see if we had any legal plans in our database that it could link to. Very useful. So the real question is, what's next? Well, hopefully I don't have to do this anymore. FME server can take the day off because something bigger and better is supposed to be coming, and it's on its way. Parcel Map BC. Basically, taking all of the linkage between parcels and land title and delivering it as a service. So they're well along the way of getting this going right now, and it'll take away my need to do what I've done, but I don't care. It'll make it a lot easier for people to get access to the data. But in the meantime, it's still working well for us, and I think it does great. So custom transformers, the FME hub, it makes a good thing better. Thank you very much. And that's Dimitri with the logo. So, thank you.
Fantastic. Any questions about any of that from the audience? Oh, yeah. Question there?
Is Parcel Map BC going to use your process or parts of it?
No, they've developed their own thing in-house. They're actually developed an actual Esri parcel database. They're linking to the real data in the background. Because parcel change so often and land titles change so often, they have the originals. They're the ones who sent out the PDFs. They just didn't send it out in any other format that we could get to. So that's why we use it. No, they have their own stuff. They are using FME quite extensively in the background.
Have you tried to do any of the PDF stuff, extracting images, and does FME have an OCR built in yet?
I do believe there is an OCR transformer somewhere on the hub.
Yes, so there is ways to try that. It's the complexity around what do you actually really want to get out of it. For instance, that you can do geo-referenced maps in PDF. Not available yet. That is something I know they've been working on for a long time to try and get the geo-referenced image out. For mine, I had one focus, text, and I've been surprised on now as I'm using it, how many more applications I'm finding for it to get the text out in an easy-to-use way.
That's something to push us for as well. If you want to get something out of a PDF, we want to add PDF reading if we can. Was that a question or a comment?
It's a comment, actually. I'm a developer at SAFE, who leads the team that's going to work on PDF, and we're going to try and do something for 2018. And we have this ticket that says, hey, there's 30 or 40 people who want this kind of thing, but if you want to express your specific scenario about what you'd like to extract from the PDF, we're trying to define the requirements for that at this point. So come see us at the doctor's office. I'll be there every afternoon with them. So I'm Ryan, come talk to me, tell me what you want to go to PDF, and maybe we can introduce you.
Yeah, there's just so much in them that it's hard to pick.
Can I ask one question? I'm going to ask it to the audience, actually. Does anyone here actually use the system caller to integrate with another package in the same way? Yeah? Oh, fantastic. Because I've done that as well, and it's really good. So it'd be nice to know. So if you want to tweet us later or come around and say hi later and let us know what you've been using it with, that would be interesting to know. But anyway, thanks, Tim. That was a fantastic talk.
Thank you.
I'm really glad I got to